Alright. Gonna go ahead and get started a little bit early here. Get this rocking. Alright. Gonna go ahead and get started. Okay. Make sure we're all set up here. Okay. Let's make sure this is all set up correctly. There we go. There we go. Alright. So where we last left off, we kind of were doing the color and the darkening side of things. But this does need to get lightened up a little bit. So that it will be the next step. We'll definitely want to continue with the beak of the staff that we can kind of load up here. Just kind of pull that up in a in another window. Okay. Images. Heinrich Kemmler. What color is that beak? Let's see if I can just pull this down here. So if we look, we can kind of see that, you know, it's got a more of a purple beak here too. So purple wings, purple beak, and that's the reference we can use. So let's go ahead and get started here. All right. So I am using a stylus and a pad, like so, and that's what we're using to draw on. It's a weird. It's okay. All right, so let's get into it. Don't apply. Let's cancel that. Okay. So we kind of are just keeping our reference art on here, and we can go ahead and dive in. Now the important part is that the important part is first we know that this is you know, I'm not a pro by any means. This is just something fun to do outside of what I'm jamming campaign plays. So that's what we'll do. So let's do this. Kind of working to get better at my coloring, especially because it's a whole nother beast. So what we'll start off with is really just this this beak here, and this is going to be purple. So we can actually just kind of take this purple here, and then just use this as the purple we use. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll draw for about an hour. So you'll see them on this color base layer. You basically have like a sketch layer, base color layer, have like a darkening layer. Kind of see how each of these comes into play. Then like a sketch layer, and you have like a line layer. But yep, this is how it all comes together. Kind of just without the lines. Then you can kind of see how the sketch layer turns out. But yeah, so with all of these shown, you can kind of see where we're starting off at. So again, we're going to start off with the colored base. And we got that purple selected. And let's see, so looks like this is going to be kind of in here. Actually, with this area, what we can do is we can just use this paint bucket here since it's going to be the color base layer. And we can kind of just fill this in like so. Because we'll come back to this after the fact. get this little part is purple as well too. Cool. So here what we'll want to do, I think, let's see. So one thing that we kind of messed up on is on this color base layer, we got to go ahead and erase this here. Kind of how y'all see it still. And from here too, we can kind of erase this part as well too. This isn't supposed to be here. And that's the nice thing about digital drawing too, is you know, you can really just zoom in here real close, like, and paint from here, which is cool. So basically, my computer was in the shop for a little bit, and I couldn't play my Total War game, so I ended up just starting to draw again. And so at the time, I was playing a Heinrich Kemmler campaign. I should just keep this. And so I just decided to draw Heinrich. Next up is going to be Scarbrand, though, which should be pretty fun. Not really sure why that's getting this this color base layer. So just put this here. All right. And this is just one of those things that I'll need a little bit more practice with, as far as like how to make this come out correct. What's poppin', Leland? Welcome, bud. You know, just doing some art. Same old, same old. Okay. And here, actually, this is going to be... It looks like this is bleeding in a lot, so I don't know why... I don't know why it's doing that. I might just have my layers wrong right now. So that might be something we kind of inspect a little bit later on, but for now, I won't really, you know, get caught up too much on that. So, you know, one thing we wanted to do here is... I'm just gonna zoom out and see where we're at. So this is looking pretty dark to me. We don't really want to keep it that dark, but, you know, we'll go ahead and just fill in where we can here. So we'll kind of complete that area. Okay. Then when we get to the color darkening side of things, what we'll do is we'll just take this, like so, and then we can kind of just work in this darkening. So one thing I need to work on a little bit more is like finding where my light source is coming from. So currently it looks like it's kind of coming from the right hand side of the photo. So really getting in here and trying to just, you know, get better at the coloring in part. So really this is just gonna kind of be practice for me too. I haven't really drawn digitally in a long time, so it's kind of just where we're at here. But if we have this light source coming in from the right, I will definitely want to make this kind of the shadowed out part. And we can see we're in that color darkening side here. Now I have this set on multiply for the brush mode. And another thing just to keep note of, folks, is I am by no means a pro at this Photoshop. This is just a little hobby of mine. So, you know, I might not know all the best tools to get the job done, but we'll try. Here we can kind of make this a little bit bigger here, just kind of just giving it a little bit more depth. And you can see as I color in over, it multiplies it where I've colored before. And we can go ahead and just do that with this beak as well too. And then after this, we'll go through the more like the highlight, so making things lighter where necessary. So it's definitely looking a little dark for my taste right now, but you know, it'll clean up. That's the hope. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in so far. I'm just gonna be drawing for an hour here, so post up, have a good time, relax, chill, hang out. Okay. can also adjust this opacity just to make it sure it's darker. And you can always just adjust the brush size too. So I'm using a stylus, but I'm also using my keyboard for some hotkeys or keystrokes that just kind of make this a little bit more efficient. And one of those is going to be the make the brush size bigger or smaller. So as it multiplies and I kind of go over it again, it'll start darkening it out. And as much as I want to be playing my Scarbrand campaign right now, you know, this is part of the content on the channel that y'all can kind of, you know, this is just good to practice. Keep working on this skill. What's up, everybody? Just tuning in. This is Heinrich Kemmler. Of course, y'all know this. And really, we're just kind of just doing this art stream outside of when I'm typically gaming and wrecking shop on Scarbrand right now. Vampire Counts was my first campaign playthrough, so when my computer was in the shop getting fixed, I started to draw again. So this is just something fun to do in between, you know, my campaign streams. So hopefully y'all enjoy it. Okay. I think that's going to be good for now. Again, we'll lighten this up a little bit more when we get to that point. But here we can kind of just darken this out a little bit too here. Okay. Let's see, and then one last thing we'll need to darken out before we start moving into the lighter parts. Kind of just these skulls too. And also some of this dark gray we haven't really gotten to yet, so I'll go ahead and select that, and then I'll just kind of drop it down a little bit in this color selector. And if you haven't yet, y'all, consider liking this video or dropping a sub if you're new here. It really helps support the channel. Started out probably about a month or so ago, or 2 months ago. Appreciate it. Alright, so here's the gray here. And with this we can kind of drop the opacity a little bit more, so we have more time to highlight. So the more I drop the opacity, the more I'll have to kind of go over those lines again to make sure that they're darkening out. But this is all just a work in progress for right now. And here we can kind of just do that. Okay. I'll just paint these teeth in. Okay. So from here, what I wanted to get into today was going to be basically drawing in a new layer. And so we're going to go to a new layer here. We're going to create a new layer, and we will name this one highlights. Color highlights. Let's do that. Okay. So now this is going to be on top of everything else. And, well, outside of our... I actually did have a color light already. That's funny. So this will be on top. Color highlights. Then here what we can do is we can essentially just kind of pick white, I think. And this should kind of turn out a little bit like this with this opacity. And let's see, if we're having the light source coming from this right-hand side, this just kind of allows us to put in a little bit more of these details that we can lighten up. So let's see how that looks. See how when I go over it, it kind of keeps getting lighter and lighter. I'm gonna just use this as time to make this happen. So let's see where to start on this. This is actually a little too white. So maybe we will drop it down to a little bit more gray. Comes in like this. Let's see here. And see, since this will be like the under his brow, I don't know if this will really be too light, right? So let's go ahead and undo these. So if this is under his hat, I don't think that light source would really show there. But it would almost kind of create like a little... Let's see about that. So I'll go back into the color darkening. I'll go ahead and just choose like a darker color like this dark gray. And let's see what this looks like. I'm trying to get more into like that color theory. And so say if he has this brim and the light source is coming down, like he would almost have like a little... like a little more like shade over here, right? And it's like we need to that and this merged. So let's do that. Merge layer. So what we'll do is we'll actually see this little center spot. I have that on a different layer, so I definitely want to not do that yet. So we will redo this. And then what we'll do is we'll go to the color darkening and the color light. See how this little spot in his forehead? So we'll just go ahead and merge these. Okay, so now this is one. Now we can go back here to the, probably the, oh, did that just, okay, so this is going to be renamed to color dark. Okay, now from here, we can go ahead and just be on this layer, and we can start putting in a little bit more of the shadow. So one thing I want to practice for this this session is just kind of getting my colors a little bit right. So he'll probably have something to where this looks like, you know, a little bit more of like a shadow, right, of where his hat is. Then here, what we can do, that's kind of good there. Maybe even just a little bit more darker up here. Kind of makes it a little bit more realistic, right? Like showing his hat's got this little shadow across his brow where the light's not hitting him. So that's going to go across his hair as well too. And that's looking pretty good. So one thing as well too is we'll want to kind of darken out these, the snack bones a little bit more. Because essentially, you know, this is where it's going to be dark too. So we'll go ahead and kind of just use this as a chance to darken these out as well. We'll kind of just want to make sure that this line is kind of the highlight line that we use. Thanks, Leland. Yeah, he's not looking too bad. You know, my next one I want to kind of do a little bit more like action and perspective. You know, this guy, because this was the concept art that I took, or the reference material. He's a little flat. So, but a lot of this was me just kind of relearning the program. Okay, so here, let's kind of keep on that and keep this highlight over here. So I'll just kind of draw, you know, let's just say the line's coming in from here. Right, this is where, or even more down, kind of coming in from this direction. And down on the hat here, this is where the light source is coming in. So a lot of things on this side are going to be light, and well, this is going to be darker. So we'll go on to the color highlights that we will pull above hand. And one thing as well too, what we can do is just go to this eraser. We can drop the opacity, and this is kind of where we can just kind of blend it in a little bit more. But this is just something we can kind of fine tune a little bit later. Cool. So let's stick on this highlighted color here. We'll switch back to our brush. And I know I definitely want to make a little bit more. Okay, so let's kind of do that same treatment for the skull, right? So the darker side of it, we know if the light source is coming down here, it's going to shine a little bit more on the front half of this, kind of this beak area. So what we'll do is we will take this darker one, and let's see how this kind of looks here. And the thing is, you know, this is... kind of use this as a chance to kind of bring out these cheekbones a little bit more, where these natural shadows are of the skull. But really, this will be something that we kind of go over a couple times. But you can kind of see how we'll just use this as a chance to kind of keep this highlight up on here. And what we can do is also, when we go into the lighter layer, the color highlights layer, we can switch this to white, and then we can just even make this a little bit more, just kind of go over a little bit lighter. Kind of use this as a chance to kind of blend this in a little bit more. But the coloring's almost the hardest part, right? So you kind of just got to get that right to begin with. But I do know that I want to, another thing we can do as well too is we could just make things lighter by dropping the opacity here, which is always an option too. And I mean, even just looking at that now from this dark to this light, it's actually just something that we might want to do. I'm trying to look at it on the stream to see kind of where we're at with that brightness. So right now it does look a little, looks pretty dark to me, to be honest. And I just don't want to lose a lot of the the material of his coat and stuff here. So I think one thing we'll do, we'll just keep this up. So we'll go ahead and we'll stay on this color. We'll go on the highlights. Let's kind of just start making this a little bit more. Thanks, Leland. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it, man. Just, lights coming from this side. Kind of just make it to where, like, a little bit more of half his body. Just come in here a little bit more. You can always just drop the opacity a little bit so it's not so... But this is just one of those things you could spend a lot of time doing. Let's see here. From here, we can kind of get a little bit more on his face as well too with this darkening color. And we can kind of just switch this back to here. Probably even just make this opacity, so how much it's translucent, we can kind of just make this a little bit more, we'll have this side of his face a little bit brighter. Kind of just make this side a little bit darker. Even with his hair over here. It's almost unnoticeable, right? But it's because I have it on multiply, so every time I go over it, it gets a little bit darker. So this as well too, this is going to be a little bit dark, and then might kind of start brightening up as we get a little bit closer to here. And so here we can go back into the highlights, switch this color to back to white, and kind of just get a little bit more almost here. And so here we can even kind of get in a little bit closer on his nose area. This is kind of new for me, so I'm trying to just get it a little bit more realistic, right? This might be something here where we kind of have to go back into this dark color. Kind of then just, make sure that we keep this dark line here. And one thing we can do, just really get this eraser here, and then kind of just undo, and we will kind of make this a little bit more opaque. And actually what we wanted to do was go back and do that on the highlight part. So we'll go on this highlight, and then we'll just kind of erase this out a little bit more. Kind of bring that dark a little bit back into it a little bit more. Cool. So let's see here, on this highlight, on this dark part, I'm going to bring this out a little bit. Switch back to our white. Something like that. And then from here, you know, let's just kind of keep working this down. Keep working this light up. And one thing we want to make sure that I was just doing there is I was actually on the really important to just follow your layers. Make sure you're on the right one. So we're going to go to color highlights. Even this is a little too transparent for me. Okay. I mean, this side will ultimately stay a little dark. This side too will probably be blocked by the shadow. And I mean, one thing, you know, to try to make this look a little bit more realistic is getting this dark area here, and you think he's got like the brim of his hat, right? So if the light source is coming from here, then it might even be covering a little bit of this area too. So again, I'm not an expert by any means, but just kind of always like to draw as a hobby. So this might be the area where this is kind of darker a little bit, right? Because of his hat. We can kind of just maybe show some of that with this kind of treatment here where the shadow of his hat is almost casting. I mean, ultimately this might even be taken throughout the entire thing. It's coming down this way. Okay, so with that we can go ahead and keep on this color dark and just kind of use this to build out this a little bit more. I'm just pulling out these shadows of where that skull bend is, just following our lines. And ultimately this is just going to be a little bit darker than everything that we see up here. And you know, kind of just free-flowing, not really getting stuck up on too many of the places. I think for here we might want to do a little bit of, maybe it's like a little darker up here too where his hat comes through. Kind of there's a little shadow on this too. See how that looks. But let's see here. Kind of a little bit better with the light. A little bit better with the light. Still looks a little blotchy though, but I mean that's just something that we'll get better at. Okay. So here, darker color. So on the dark, we will kind of just make it so that we will get this opacity up a little bit higher. And then we can kind of start coloring these a little bit more darker too. And overall, we can kind of just make this a little bit darker this way. Knowing that this side's going to be a little bit lighter. Kind of see how that already puts some texture on it. You know, and then this would be kind of the shadow cast by his staff. We don't want to go too dark on this though. But what we can do is kind of just get into these fingers a little bit more as well. A little bit darker there. Let's kind of zoom out and see what's up. A little bit better. I mean, it kind of looks like he's got some sunscreen on his nose, but we can just kind of go back into the highlights and do a little bit of erase on there, I feel like. Kind of bring that back a little bit. And, you know, that's one thing that we can also do is just with this opacities, kind of go back through here. Kind of just make this a little bit less white. Because one thing I want to make the distinction of is kind of the different layers of his coat too. maybe even this, kind of this a little bit more too. Just cleaning this up a little bit. Okay, now let's see here. This is looking a little bit better now with the kind of getting the highlights involved. And let's do this. So we can go back to now the brush. And we just hit the halfway mark of the drawing stream for tonight. So we're making some good progress. Here, wondering where we can kind of make some of these highlight lines here. So I want to definitely switch back to our white. Okay. So let's see, this is going to be where... want to make this a little bit softer so it's not so translucent. What's up, everybody just tuning in? Welcome to the stream. Just doing a little Heinrich Kemmler Warhammer art. And we working on it. Okay, so here we can kind of do, you know, kind of polish up this skull a little bit more. We can also do the highlights a little bit on, you know, we can almost even just get in here and start doing it on these chains too. Because these chains aren't totally dark. We can get in here, drop the brush size really low, and maybe even just kind of something like that. These ones will kind of remain dark since they're going to be blocked by this skull. And this is just a way to kind of maybe put some of this too is like you zoom in, kind of just add this in here, and then you don't really see how the finished product looks until you kind of zoom out. So this will kind of just help provide a little bit more of this color here. And one thing we can always do too is just get in close, right? Just get in close. Enhance, enhance. Just to make sure you're doing it right. Kind of just helps provide a little bit more control. So we'll keep this side of the ring dark. And we'll kind of just do a little light there. Kind of just gives it a little bit more of a... Or should I start this one out here? Just kind of following where that light source would be. Like it would be up top here, right? If it's coming down from this side, kind of have to get that in there. Cool. So this will probably be a little bit there. Just get a little bit of a highlight up here. And then just right over here. Alright. So for this, let's see, we will kind of make this a little bit bigger. Just get in like that a little bit more. You can kind of use this as a way to show how these are kind of their like bracelets. These are actually hands, right? Because this is supposed to be like a bodysuit, literal bodysuit. Okay. And then we can kind of just bring this out a little bit more. It's a little bit bigger. And we can basically, you know, kind of just a little bit wider like that. Okay. And this just might be something we kind of come back through afterward. And what we can do is move to this color dark. I'm gonna know to kind of put a little bit more kind of a shadow on this cufflink too, right? So we will make sure that we're using the right color. And it's just kind of a way to... One thing as well too we gotta remember is because the lighter layer is above the darker layer, we're actually gonna have to use this eraser though for this highlight to get rid of that. So kind of just, you know, remembering what you were using. You can go to the color dark. So I'm getting this a little bit darker just to show this chain. Cool. And then we can kind of just zoom out and see how that turns out a little bit. And we don't want this to be too white, so we'll just kind of get back to the eraser. And then we will just bring the opacity a little bit higher here. Okay. And then let's see. And then one thing we can also start thinking about too is really just, you know, creating a new layer. You can just kind of have this be background. We'll rename this. Let's do this. Rename. We could just have this background light. From here, you know, I think I'm gonna make this purple for sure, and we'll kind of just jam on this background a little bit. But let's just do. Can I just zoom out a little bit more? And oops, one thing we'll definitely want to do is, you know, from here we can kind of hide this, and what we can do as well too is we'll just get back into here and we'll go ahead and just erase this. Okay, and we will make the opacity super high so we can just fully erase this. Cool. Now we'll go to the background light. Maybe make this kind of a dark purple. This should really make it pop a little bit. Ooh. And let's see here. It's kind of interesting because it like actually colors in his eyes a little bit more. So what we can do is I think this gradient, maybe if we start off a little bit lighter. And then what we can do is add another layer that's kind of like your... So this might be a way to do this. Another thing we can do is also just, you know, go find some background like skeleton art type of deal and then pull that in. So we can kind of see what that looks like as well too. But for this gradient, you know, let's kind of pull this back a little bit more for the zoom. Zoom out a little bit more. I know his eyes are purple right now. We'll fix that a little bit later. Okay, gradient. And then what we could do is kind of just start doing this, like kind of puts a little background on that. This kind of also helps showcase that, you know, where that light source is coming in from. So that might be a possibility. Another thing we can do is go to like graveyard scenery. And let's see here. Can kind of just find a little graveyard scene. Let's do this. Graveyard scenery. So let's maybe do something like this. Kind of a neat one here. I'll just download this real quick. Save image as background. Put it on the desktop. And let's see how this looks if we pull this in here. So what we can do is just take this background image, pull this into here, drop it in the very back, kind of just do this a little bit. Something like this. Get that moon in there. So that might be something we kind of just post up with for now. It's a little bit of that spooky season feel. So that's just an option. And that's probably what I'll end up keeping. You know what's funny? The issue is that the moon is the light source from this and it's coming from the other side. Get wrecked. So what we'll do is we'll actually image, and I think we can rotate this. We can flip it the vertical. Oh my gosh. No, just this layer. Just this layer. Okay, so I think we gotta do this actually. Take this here and we just flip it like so. There you go. Like it never even happened, bro. Like it never even happened. Or something like that. Now the funny thing is that I don't know why that this is making it so that like his eyeballs and stuff are all jacked up. Like it's kind of annoying, to be honest. I don't see why this is making his eyeballs like that. So thing is, it's all good. We will go ahead and go to the color base because that's the base of the eyes, and we'll just go ahead and kind of redo his eyes here, and we will make his eyes white. And for this, since it's the color base, we can just go up really high. And actually what we might want to just do is take this. Oops. Okay, interesting. This is where the layers start to get a little messed up. Okay, so let's do this. We will then take this and go white. Okay, so this should be, there we go. There we go. Back into it. Cool. Color base, okay. It's interesting, it's almost like the, So I feel like what I have to do to fix this is, you see how it's kind of coming through like blue a little bit more? So I think what I gotta do is I gotta hide this. I then have to create a flat layer. And I think what I have to do here is I gotta merge this layer. With like the bottom line, I think. The top line. And so I think that's what I gotta do. I gotta click this. I gotta click the bottom line, and then I gotta click the top line, and then I got to merge these. Merge the layers. And I think I gotta drop this down here. Okay, and then from here what I do is I then select this, and then I take all of this tolerance, and then I delete this. Then I delete this here, then I delete this here, and this actually then gives me this isolated, and then what I can do is then I can unhide this layer. There we go. Oops, and then I can go to this top, and I can go ahead and delete this too. This gives me a little bit more to play with. Crisis averted. We can kind of zoom in here for this top layer. And we can go ahead and get into here. And we can also just use this as a chance to just erase a little bit more in here too. There you go. And one of the reasons you also do that is then you can kind of just adjust this as needed. So you can even make this part in the back, you can make this, let's see if I did like another layer here. And I think actually you can just do this and you can do, adjust lighting, and then you can do brightness, contrast, and I mean you can even darken this out a little bit. You know, make this a little bit more winter. This looks good though. So it doesn't look like he's popping out so much. This is where it's originally at. Something like that. Cool. All right, and we got about 10 minutes left on this this stream for this. So what we'll want to do is probably go to this color highlights, and then let's kind of clean this up a little bit more. Okay, color dark. Something like that a little bit. And then let's see here, I think get on these color highlights again and kind of just do a little bit, get that a little bit less on him. Alright, so I think this is going to be good. What I can also do here is just once I get into this top section, I can go ahead and just, I think I can layer, and then I can do like, I think I can add like a drop shadow somehow. Even though drop shadows is like, well, how about we do this instead? Kind of want to make it so he pops off a little bit more. But I think that might just have to do with how it looks. So one thing that I can do is just kind of drop this. Oops, I can drop this. Enhance, adjust lighting, brightness, and we can go ahead and just kind of drop this brightness down a little bit more. Cool. And let's see here, I think for the color dark, what we'll do is we'll also just erase this a little bit. His hands a little bit. Okay. And I'm trying to see where we can kind of start wrapping this up a little bit more. Kind of just clean this up a little bit in these areas. So here I can just kind of make this dark. Kind of where we're just seeing a little bit of these white spots here. So I can kind of just fill in dark too. Here, we'll kind of use this as a chance to just make his... And we want to make sure that we just drop this opacity a little bit more. Gives us a chance to just really control the lines a little bit better. Here we can kind of just make this a little bit darker. And here. Kind of just get in here a little bit more too. Just kind of wanted to make it so it doesn't seem like it's looks a little bit more like within the scene. So one thing I can do with that is I can get this layer. And then on this layer, I can kind of just do, let's just, for example, see how this looks. We'll kind of just make this a little big. Oh, and I gotta basically put this above this layer. Kind of blend him in a little bit more to the scene. See how that kind of looks. Something like that. Let's see how that might. I don't know. I mean, this might just kind of be as good as this one gets. You know, the whole idea is we'll move on to Scarbrand after this, which I think will be a lot of fun. But I think this was a pretty good warm up. Color highlights. Kind of just get back to the white here. Opacity. Kind of drop this brush a little bit more. Oof, it's pretty. We just got to get in a little bit more for this particular detail. That kind of looks cool as like it's a little bit more shiny, right? As the skull. And then let's do, like, we can kind of even just erase this a little bit more. But let's kind of just focus on one thing at a time. I'm not really feeling that, to be honest. Let's get in a little bit more. Enhance more. I feel like with this, we gotta be really, really particular about this. I'm not really too keen. We'll see. We'll see if this grows on me. I think what it is that I'm coloring on top of the darkened lines. So one thing I should have done before I merge these is probably duplicate this, edit. What I can do is I can do this and I can duplicate this. Duplicate layer. Let's see, hard top 3. Then what I can do is probably pull this up above. Let's see, so probably not. Yeah. Oh well. Well, at least that's not gonna like mess it up too much. But that looks kind of cool. Having a little bit of the highlight on the wing here. So a little bit more. Can delete this, can delete this. Alright, so I think for the last 4 minutes or so, what we'll do is we'll just kind of keep rocking with this, this highlight layer. And then we will get into here. And then you know what, one thing we can do also is we can just zoom out of this. We can go into this layer here, and we can just kind of enhance, and we want to layer. We want to see if we can posterize. I think posterize is it? No, not the one. Kind of just want to blur this out a little bit. Adjust color. Adjust lighting levels. Adjust sharpness maybe? Let's see this. I kind of want to just... I want to blur it actually. Way too sharp. I don't want to sharpen it, I want to blur it. So, in blurring the background, I think I do image. Let's see here, layer. Levels, hue, saturation, gradient map, invert threshold, maybe? No. That's not what I want to do. So I guess what I'll just do here, honestly, is I can get this blur tool. That's just one way to do it, I think. And we'll just make this super fat. And then we'll have this layer selected, blur, size, strength, size. Let's see, I mean, I'm not really seeing it get much more blurry, to be honest. I think we could just like kind of blur this out a little bit more though. But okay, we got just another minute or so left, and I think this is gonna be where we will mark this a W for the good guys. So what we'll do is we'll kind of just post out of here. And just kind of look for spots where it just looks a little bit funky at this time. And so I think that's going to be something like this. Color highlights, I think. Might want to just kind of drop this a little bit more. You know, I think it did its trick here. And then I think that's fine there. Got this over his head. I mean, these lines look a little... I think the actual size of it will be like this, though. And one thing we can do is just kind of finish off with his sword. Or we'll go back to the color dark. And we can kind of make this a little bit bigger here. That's kind of just where we'll wrap it. So, let's see, this will be on this side. Darken this out a little bit more here. Cool. Cool. All right, man. Well, I think this will probably do it for the Heinrich Kemmler. This was a good little practice in getting refreshed with drawing. I don't think this turned out too bad, actually. I wish he had a little bit more, like, you know, purple in his eyes or something, but I think this is good. Just go to this light. Yeah, see, at this point, I can't really do much because I messed up my line layers, so kind of stuck as it is now, but I think that'll do it for this art stream. Heinrich Kemmler. Pretty cool. What I want to do is I want to blur this out a little bit more. Maybe if I go effects. I go effects and I go faded photo and I go glow, monologue, panels. No, maybe go filters, and I go noise, distort, noise, blur. Is this right? Sharpen? Pixelate, maybe? Noise? How do I just add this? Apply to document? Okay, so this is actually giving it a little bit more blur. Okay, that's cool. So we'll kind of just wrap this up. I think I do this, and then I can check. Can I click into these effects? But this blurred it quite a bit, which is cool. All right, I think this is gonna do it, folks. This is how Heinrich ends. Pretty happy with this. I think that throwing in that background really did a lot of good. And I think actually just one thing, just because I'm super critical now, is I'll just go into these highlights and I will just kind of get in here close. Just put a little bit more of this little highlight on this little wing here too. Because watch, I'm gonna do this and it's just gonna pull the whole thing together. And just pull the whole thing together here. It's nice and easy, nice and easy. Nice and easy, just, you know. Cool. So something like that. Okay, and then with this eraser, I can kind of just go back over these edges, just to make sure that I'm, you know, right now I messed up my line layers, and so I'm actually drawing over my lines, which you don't really want to do. You want to keep those hard lines as the final. But alas, live and you learn. Cool. Alright, and we can just kind of do this real quick here, and then we will drop this. We'll just want to make that sure that that line pops out. And just kind of going back down here, real nice and easy. Cool. Ooh, that's an issue when you kind of gotta restart if you don't, if you hold it in too much. All right, let's zoom out and take a look. There we go. See, just that little highlight there made all the difference, I feel like. And actually, you know what? I think let's just do one more thing. One more thing. So funny. I do the same thing when I'm playing campaigns. I'm like, I swear this is the last turn. It's just not. Let me make this a little bit more dark here. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna call it. All right, y'all. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This will be where we end it. And let's just kind of get a final look here. Yeah, I think that's fine. Kind of neat. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you all enjoy your weekend. We're gonna go ahead and save this bad boy, and next thing is we will move on to Scarbrand for the next stream. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. Much love. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you back on the next gameplay stream. That will be on Sunday. Cool. Thanks all. Take it easy.